Hello everybody, hope you're all doing well. My name is Steven and this is the Storytime channel. We've got some malicious compliance stories, so let's jump right into our first story of the day by Otchayannij. They're your rules. I was an English teacher in Moscow. At the beginning of the school year, I asked for a week off of time around a holiday so I could travel some. I got denied, so the week it came around, I was pleased that most of my classes had been cancelled because the students had the same idea I had and were all going on vacation. I get an email from the administration stating that I was to cover classes for another teacher, who was taking vacation for the week I had asked for. So I was already a bit upset about that they'd approved him but not me, especially since I'd asked for it like 5 months ago. Anyway, I accept the hand that was dealt and start preparing lessons. The day of the first class, I leave home a few hours early so that I had plenty of time to make sure I could find the place. It was at a location I'd never been, and that I had all the necessary equipment I needed to read the lessons. It was pretty easy to find, but when I rang the bell, there was no answer. I had some time, so I went off to get a snack. I come back to the school about 30 minutes early and ring the bell again. No answer. I try calling the school's administrator. No answer. I try calling the administrator who assigned the classes. No answer. For over an hour, I rang the doorbell and called multiple times to no avail. My contract stated that I had to wait 30 minutes for students to show up before I could leave. So at the 30-minute mark, I sent a text to all parties that read something along the lines of, "I was here on time." I waited a half hour after the scheduled time, but nobody answered the door. I'm going back home. It will take me 20 minutes to get to the metro. If you call me before I board, I will turn around and come back. When I got home, I got a call. "Where the heck are you?" "At home." "You have a class." I'm aware. I was there and nobody answered the door. I called and nobody answered. I also left a text. "Texting is not an approved form of communication." Now, this was before I had a phone with a data plan, so text was the only way I could message someone. They tried docking my pay for this, but when I told the owner what had happened and showed him my call logs and the text I left, he made sure that didn't happen. Fast forward a few months. I had been having a lot of issues with the administration, so I had become an expert on the finer details of our contract. One of those details was that the administration couldn't assign a class with less than 72 hours notice. So when they called on Saturday to give me a class for Monday, I told them no. Again, they tried to dock my pay, the owner sided me and told me I was right. My favorite part though was receiving a text that said I was to teach a class on a given day. They made special mention of the 72-hour rule. I ignored the text. When the time for class came around, I got another call. "Where the heck are you?" "At home." "You have a class." "No, I don't." "I sent you a text, I have it saved." Texting is not an approved form of communication. Do you think OP was in the right to leave and go back home after 30 minutes of not getting any information from anybody, not being let in, not getting answered from their calls and whatnot? Let me know if you think so in the comments down below, or if you think OP should have stuck it out and made sure that the class, well, had their teacher for the day. This next story is by Epic Danger 2. It's my responsibility to ensure I fulfill my hours on my 0-hour contract. I have had many runs in with this manager, but this was the straw that broke the camel's back. Deciding what to do with my life was tough, and after I dropped out of university, I decided I wanted to join the Air Force. In the lead up to joining and throughout the application process, I worked for a health club as a lifeguard and barista in the coffee shop/bar. When I went for the interview for the job, I very clearly stated my intentions and that my priority was joining the Air Force. The interviewer, the pool manager, appreciated the honesty and gave me the job on a 0-hour contract to allow flexibility. A few weeks into the job, the pool manager asked if I wanted more hours as the bar manager was looking for more staff to fill some gaps. Slowly but surely, I started doing less and less lifeguard shifts and more bar shifts. This suited me more as I got to speak to the clients more, and the hours were more friendly to my lifestyle. Here is where the problem started. As I neared the end of my application process, I had to attend a 3-day course for selection and was given the dates of the course only 2 weeks prior to the course start date. As my manager wasn't in, I forwarded the course invite to him and said to not put me onto the shift rotation for that week. Along with this, I left a note on his desk saying I had sent him an email. The next afternoon, I arrive for my evening shift and see the new rotation for the next month had been released. I had been put onto 2 morning shifts and 1 evening shift over my course dates. I immediately go and see the bar manager and explain I had sent him an email and I could not work that week. He told me that I would need to find cover if I didn't want the hours as the rotation was final. I agreed to trying my best to find cover, however, if I couldn't, I was still going to the selection course. He agreed to this and I started work. During the next 10 days, I found cover for the first morning shift and the 1 evening shift. However, that middle morning shift proved to be tough. I told the bar manager of the progress and stated I had not found cover for the 1 shift, and after a long discussion, he stated that it was my responsibility to fulfill my hours. Clearly had conveniently forgotten I was on a 0-hour contract. I smiled at this and stated I completely agree with him there and went home. The pre-selection course starts, and on the end of the first day, I receive a phone call from the bar manager asking who was covering my next morning shift. I replied to him how I had not found cover and that I had told them this already a number of times. I received a barrage down the phone about my attitude towards my job and how I will fail in life if I keep this attitude. No matter how much I tell him that I am over 100 miles away on a selection course and there was no chance of me being in work the next morning, he still said, "I expect you in work the next morning or don't bother coming back." I call my other manager and explain the conversation I just had, and she very helpfully insinuated that I would be welcome back to the lifeguard team until I start my new career. She gave me lots of hours by the pool where I had a complete view of the hectic, understaffed bar that I was supposed to be working behind, and to add insult to injury, I phoned through to the bar to order a nice cool glass of water and watched the bar manager walk to poolside to drop it off to me. I definitely don't feel bad for the manager in this situation. Clearly OP tried to give them as much of a heads up as possible. If they've got obligations and it's a bar job, hopefully the manager would be willing to work with them and try to help them, because I'm sorry, a bar job is probably not your final career choice, especially for a younger person. But I hope they enjoyed dropping that water off poolside. This next story is by DeezRodenutz. New manager believes she knows a job better than the one who's done it for years. I used to work evening shift at Walmart in the paper/pet/chemicals area. One of the hardest hit areas, since everyone who comes in usually needs at least 1 item from the area, yet I was doing this solo. They claimed it wasn't a 2+ person job despite that obvious reasons why it was, yet I was originally hired on as the second person. Nonetheless, I got really good at the job, but being understaffed, I definitely needed to be left to the job and allowed to do it in the ways I learned worked well, or else it won't be done. A few years in, the manager switched up the areas they were in charge of, and my new manager decided I was doing the job wrong despite completing it fine nightly. After a good bit of argument, I agreed to do everything exactly the way she claimed was the right way for 1 month, and then we can re-meet to see how things went. Despite my best efforts to make her ways work, I didn't complete even half the area a single night that month. When the manager overseeing the store each night would make their rounds to see everyone's progress and who might need some extra help to finish up, they would see my area half done at best and ask me what occurred that put me so far behind that night. And every time I told them it was because my manager was not allowing me to do the job correctly, but I had to do it wrong for her own self-satisfaction. So if they want me to start doing it correctly again, they need her to call it off and admit she was wrong, or wait until the end of the month when I'll be going back to doing it my way. She never did admit fault, but I did go back to doing my job correctly again when the month was over. I had a habit of not putting up with their bull, so I tended to not get good reviews at year's end, so not like disobeying this manager had any further effect on me. and kept doing the job well despite this, so they kept me hired regardless of their dislike of me. At least until I later got fired for not showing up to the back to unload trucks when a new manager that didn't know me called for employees for some areas I was not a part of. If I've ever heard good things about Walmart, it's usually not the managers that work there. From what I've heard, the whole employee side of things of Walmart is kind of like a turnstile open door where people keep getting shuffled around, new people come in, new people leave all the time. I mean, I guess what else would you really expect from the cheapest superstore? Our next story is by Arouv. Well, as I don't learn anything in this class, I could also just simply leave? Heck yeah, sure. I just somehow remembered an awesome story from a few years ago when I was in 10th grade in school. Hope you guys enjoy. I had this stupid chemistry teacher. I'll just call her Mrs. S. She just finished studying and was in her first 2 years of teaching, where in Germany you're technically still in training and parts of your work like your test grading get overseen by an experienced teacher. And she kept making the most basic mistakes you learn not to do in your first year of school chemistry. Keep in mind that woman obviously studied chemistry. And as her tests were also graded by another teacher as she was still in training, we'd get mistakes and less points in tests for stuff she simply teached us wrong. So I started just always correcting her mistakes in class until some point she burst out over a simple formal correction of the stuff she'd written on the board. "Oh come on, that's just a little formal thing, don't be so exact." Yeah, but we get less points in our tests because of you teaching that stuff wrong to us. Other teacher, also still in training watching from the back, "Yeah, and also life just isn't always fair, so calm down." What? Come on, you also aren't even finished with your training and never even said anything from back there, but now suddenly? And if we get bad marks because of the stuff she teaches us wrong, I ain't just gonna sit down and smile happily. Mrs. S rhetorically, "Well, if you think you aren't learning anything in this class, why don't you just leave?" Well, okay. Packing my stuff. Let's say she absolutely wasn't prepared for me to actually do that and had no idea what to do. A minute after I left, she kinda burst out of the room and ran after me, suddenly wanting to discuss my problem, nearly bursting out in tears. In the end, we had an intense 5-minute discussion and agreed on me getting my regular good mark I had gotten throughout the year and me just not visiting her class the last weeks until summer break. Man, I really had a good time in my extra breaks. From then on, I always had a feeling she was trying to get out of my way and not get my attention when we passed in the halls. This teacher sounds like she needs a lot more training. To the point where they shouldn't be handling the class yet. A teacher that can't handle getting corrected or pointed out for errors, that shouldn't fly in any capacity, honestly. And in the end, OP made the t-shirt seemingly scared of them. That's pretty uncommon. Our next story is by MrThoughtPolice. $30 nap. Back in 2017, I had a job that required very specific, detailed accounts of various events. I won't fully explain the job as it's irrelevant to the story. An incident happened and I was required to do a report. I was very busy, so I rushed through and gave half effort. I was told to see my boss before I left, unknowingly to me because he didn't like the report and was pissed off about the whole thing. However, he was busy and it was a bad day, so I said to heck with it and went home. A couple hours later, my boss calls and said I needed to get back to work or I'd be fired. At the time, I was still trying to impress people and promote. So I went and I got to his office and he was complaining and told me my report was crap. He said that I was going to rewrite it and I was going to sit there and wait while he did all the accompanying paperwork in addition to my part. Not even 2 minutes into this ordeal, the head boss decides to show up to visit and make sure everyone is doing their stuff. Well, my boss takes off to kiss butt. He said not to go anywhere, and I said screw it. I'm on the clock, whatever. I kicked back, got comfortable, I put my head back. I'm taking a nap until he gets back. I wake up to the office door opening. I look at my watch, I'd been asleep 2 hours. We did the paperwork and my boss said, "Maybe waiting all this time will teach you a lesson." Yes, I learned a lesson. I learned they will pay me 2 hours of work to take a nap. Easiest money they've made in their entire life. They were counting dollars with the back of their eyelids. And our final story of the day is by GeneralFuqfaice. It's not in the school rules. This is a story from around 10 years ago when I was at school. I was 15 or 16 and was a gobbly little crap. I was constantly butting heads with the head of year, who was a miserable old woman who, in her own words, hated kids. Now, I was blessed with a relatively early puberty, so in my last year of secondary school, UK, I had a fairly average goatee going on. Wouldn't be looked at twice as an adult, but at that age, it was thicker than other kids could grow. And the head of year hated it, as well as not being too fond of me. Like I said, I was a gobby teenager, hated authority. If it was someone else, it might have gone under the radar, but because I was known to her, she noticed it. One day she told me to shave it. I scoured through the school rules and it didn't say anything about facial hair, so I didn't. Then the next day she asked me why I hadn't, to which I said that it wasn't in the school rules. She said she didn't care, shave it. I didn't. The next day she mentioned it again. I replied the same. This went on for probably around 2 or 3 weeks, with her progressively getting more and more angry about it each time. Eventually, one morning, she'd had enough and took me to the head teacher and was ripping into me in his office, shouting and fairly worked up. When the head teacher asked for my side, I just said, "It's not in the school rules," and passed him our journal/planner that had the school rules in the front. He sat down, read through them all, and sent me away. We got a letter through to all classes that afternoon stating that there was to be an immediate change to the school rules. No facial hair of any kind on students. I came in the next day clean shaven and gave the head of year a big smile. Don't you hate when one person hates another person so much that the first person is going to try and change the rules just to affect that one person? That's an incredible level of petty against a child. And I say shame on that head of year. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. So if you have a favorite story of the day, let me know which story and why in the comments down below. But besides that, if you enjoyed the video today, please give the video a like and subscribe if you haven't, and turn notifications on so you'll never miss an upcoming video. No matter what you did, whether it was just watching the video, subscribing, commenting, thank you all so very much for supporting me right here on the Storytime channel. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you all next time right here.